A very good afternoon to everyone present here. My special respects to my co-speaker, Alpana ma'am. And I'm really thankful, in fact, first of all, let me start with a thanking note. I'm thankful to USTM for giving me this opportunity, inviting me, especially on this National Civil Services Day. And ma'am has already spoken at length. She has created the framework in which maybe, when I speak, it becomes more meaningful to you. And before I start speaking on the topic, I would again like to thank Ma'am Alpana ma'am for making me feel as if I was in college. So, I'm myself a political science student. I graduated in political science honors from St. Xavier's College, Calcutta. And so it becomes more relevant to me. And to get to the topic, in fact, public administration skills in enhancing democratic principles in India. So, my way of speaking will be more informal, more interactive, okay? So I'll make you speak without even giving you the mic. When we talk about public administration, ma'am has said about permanent executives and political executives. To start with, let me break a lot of misconceptions, which I know many of the seniors also have. I'm sure that you will appreciate that what I speak from a personal experience. And these are things which are not taught in the schools, colleges, or not even your training academies. So, when it comes to this permanent executives taking the country ahead, political executives, coming and going. This is a discourse which keeps on going, and many of the aspirants and many of the newcomers to the services, they also take it that way, and they take it pretty seriously. So that tends to dislodge the general interest of the country. When we start discounting the political executives and saying that the civil servants actually rule the country, you know what happens? I should blame a bit of Indian movies also, for having this, creating this disjunction between the political executives and the permanent executives, as if all politicians are bad and all civil servants are good. So, what happens on the ground? Like when it comes to the permanent executives, yes, as permanent executives, we are the keepers of the institutional memory. When somebody comes and goes, we keep the memories alive. Because we know that how it was 10 years ago, how the system was and how the process was running. We can update our political executives that way. Look, this has been the procedures, these have been the precedents. So, the person gets into a better position to take decisions. Yes, we can influence, as permanent executives, we can influence the general course of administration, the general course of the thought process towards which the country is moving. But there is no disjoint between this permanent executive and the political executive, in the sense that when we talk about democracy, back to the subject, when we talk about the democracy and we say the skills required for enhancing democratic principles. So what are the democratic principles which we are trying to protect or to promote? When we say about democracy, the old, perhaps the most popular definition of democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. So, the ethics or the approach of public administration of public servants is broadly towards that. So, once we say that it is government of the people, what does that mean? It means the government owned by the people, isn't it? It's an ownership of the government. Government by the people. So, the government is supposed to be run by the people and not by public servants. So, who comes with this by the people? They are the political representatives, isn't it? And government for the people. There comes the role of, permanent so-called civil servants. That we have to ensure that the government is for the people. So the overall tenor of the governance should be directed that it should cater towards public interests and not personal interests. So in this whole definition, when it comes in play, democracy, you see that the political executive and the so-called permanent executive, they have to work in tandem to keep this government of the people, by the people, for the people. If there is a disjunction, there is the problem. There are a lot of challenges coming before permanent executives, with changing political setups, the changing the political narrative. And it is not new. It has been coming on since the democracy has come in action. There comes the role of public servants to guide the political executives, to maintain that steel frame with the spines of steel, and stand up and say, this is not in public interest. We cannot fight with our political executives. That idea which has been created by the cinema, that we have to fight, no, it's wrong. It's completely wrong. What we need to do is, we have to educate the political executives, because the political executives come up with something, that representing lakhs of people behind them. So when they speak for public interest, definitely. Because they come up, they ask the permanent executive, like, look, this has to be done this way. So they are speaking the mind of the people. The way they speak, or the speed with which they want us to deliver, may be not practical. There comes our role, the role of the permanent executive, to hold the ground. Given our training, given our exposure in governance, we need to perhaps speak out to them, tell them, guide them, that yes, it is doable. And if it is doable, this is the way of doing it. And if it is not doable, why it is not doable. But the glitch is here that somehow the permanent executive trying to seek the permanence of their interests tend to forget this part. They tend to play to the demands, the temporary demands, which may not really be in public interest. So there comes the problem. That is a place where I believe that the permanent executives, that they cannot be taught. They cannot be taught. They cannot be trained. This is something which comes at a personal level. Your ethics are pretty personal. It cannot be taught in an academy. You bring it from your home. Your approach towards life is also personal. You really cannot be trained. You can be trained. You can be trained with you can be given the tools to solve situations, to ensure that you are able to handle circumstances. But these ethics, these cannot be taught in school, colleges, training institutions, or even while you are working. So I believe that permanent executives really do the roles which are assigned to them only when they come up and they maintain those basic ethics, they maintain those basic principles which are pretty personal, and they always remember this, as ma'am said about this, the rights, the fundamental rights of the Constitution. They should understand, when we understand that we are here in public interest, when we understand that we are public servants, and we understand the both words clearly, public and servant, then only I believe that we'll be able to deliver for what we are recruited. Yes, the skills for enhancing democratic principles. So what are those skills? Those skills, I believe, is first of all remembering the basic ethos that we are here to ensure the democratic principles of liberty, equality, political freedom, rule of law. So when we ensure that whatever we do, whichever way we work, whatever steps or stands we take are finally directed towards that, the larger goal of democracy. The skills on ground you might be observing yourselves, like you'll be finding public servants right from the level of the circle office at the ground level to the police station to the ground level to the highest echelons of administration. And you'll be knowing them personally or through the news media or through the books. And you'll yourself appreciate whether the vision which Sardar Patel saw when he created the All India Services or this whole gamut of civil service steel frame, whether it is successful or not, it is, you can always, you see, it is a personal experience, what I believe. Because many times people say that corruption बढ़ गया है, government में काम नहीं होता है, you know. Most of it is narrative. This is not fact.